Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of Knowledge Worth Sharing Season 2. Today episode will be another podcast interview episode. Today's guest is Mira Taylor, the founder of Moon and Rune, a Gnostic Wellness. She is an integrative holistic therapist, a master certified mental and spiritual wellness practitioner, a subconscious self medium, guide and healer, business and organizational wellness consulting advisor, a professional speaker and educator of mind, body, spirit wellness practices, and a modern day alchemist and oracle. Wow, that's a long list of accolades you got there. So, Mira, welcome to this humble podcast.
It's an absolute honor. Thank you very much for inviting me on. I took the time to listen to a few of your podcasts before reaching out to you and thought you were doing an absolutely wonderful job and
Thank you
really
so
love your
much.
intent with all of this.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I'm so humbled that you have listened to some of our podcasts, and yeah, I'm truly grateful. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So Mira, can you please tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Yes, so I won't dive into the titleage much, but I'll kind of hone in on my purpose and what I do, which is that I work with both individuals or, for the individual more so, which would be individuals, families, couples, smaller groups in that sense that are more personal. But I also work with businesses around mental and spiritual wellness. And basically, this is all about helping people understand that mental wellness, of course, has a spiritual aspect to it, that we are all spiritual beings. We all have a sort of desire to live a spiritual or ritualistic life, to feel fulfilled and enriched, and to give us purpose oftentimes. But I also teach people how to make those things more tangible. So for a lot of people, when you say the word spirituality, they think you must mean, oh, I must go to a building or a church, or be in this special place with incense lit, and there's lots of sort of images that come along with it. And what I'm hoping to teach people is that spirituality can be expressed even in just daily life, that the things you do, the habits you form in your daily waking regular, not even if you work a 9 to 5, that there's still spirituality involved there, and that there's space for it, and how to use things like ritual to improve mental wellness, whether that's for the individual or at an organizational level.
I think you're pretty much well said that spirituality can be accessed in the daily life by doing your own normal routine activities. You even mentioned the word ritual there. So yeah, I mean, like, spirituality is not something which is just you can do in this particular place or particular area, but you can access it in your daily life. And I really love how you mentioned it. So Mira, your business is called Moon and Rune. Did I pronounce it correctly? Moon and
Yes.
Rune. Okay, so it's quite a unique name, Moon and Rune. So I just want to ask you, Mira, why do you choose the name Moon and Rune?
So one of the large parts of what I guide people with in my sessions is a reconnection to what many would call sort of the archetypal feminine energy that resides within all of us as a part of our total consciousness. From a Jungian or psychology standpoint, that's known as the subconscious mind. But basically what it represents is this beautiful collective part of the consciousness of humanity that is far more efficient than the conscious mind is at retaining information. So in animals, we often call this instinct, right? We look at a spider that's born that knows how to make its own web without ever being taught, and we just call this instinct. But realistically, we know that this is wisdom and intuition that is embedded through the subconscious mind in this animal. And this is something that as humans, for whatever reason, we've really consciously separated from. So moon represents wisdom. Runes are symbols or sigils that were often used, sometimes called hieroglyphs, as a part of many pre-Christendom, pre-Anglo-Saxon English languages. So in Egypt, you would have hieroglyphs. For the Nordic people, you had runes, basically, which represented things symbolically more so than this is exactly what it means. And so rune represents intuition. So Moon and Rune came from what I wanted to use as the symbols for how I teach about wisdom and intuition.
Wow, I love it. Like it's like a perfect blend between wisdom and intuition. That's Moon and Rune, and I truly 100% agree with you, because that animals like they do not have a choice. Like for example, you mentioned spider as well. When they were conceived, and then when they become a child, and then when they were little and they grew up. So basically, their whole life pathway has been planned from the beginning. While humans, like we are different from animals, because well, we do have body, mind, and then we also have another extra facility called the intellect, where we can judge between right and wrong, do good or bad. And that's why humans, we have a dilemma of choice, right? Because I mean, for example, for lunch, we have a choice. Okay, I want to have steak for lunch, or I want to have chips for lunch. So we have choice, and we have dilemma in it. So yeah, so I truly agree with what you say, that human beings are different from animals, because we have the power to choose, because we have the facility of intellect to judge and to choose between choices. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Mira, third question will be, now you from the introduction which I mentioned just now, there's therapists, there's practitioner, there's a healer. So I want to focus on the healer's therapist side of you, Mira. So being a therapist, sorry, okay, the question is, being a therapist, how do you distinguish yourself from being a therapist, a practitioner, and an educator? Where is the distinguished line between
There
these three? Yeah.
isn't. So that's kind of the point, is that there is not. All of those hats or roles or parts of myself play an integral role in an intuitive way during session. So it completely depends on the individual or group that's in front of me, but I allow myself to experience the room, allow my intuition to have a sense of the room, what the collective is feeling or what the individual is feeling. And then I use that as a way to sort of provide them with the most appreciable information to them. So I take basically what is put in front of me, I allow myself to get an intuitive sense of it, and then I shape the session or the language based on that. And that will depend on whether I'm really putting more of the educator hat on, or if I'm acting more so as a guide. You know, some people that I see are pretty far along the path of their mental and spiritual wellness. And in that case, I enact in more of the guide educator role. And in some people that are just totally starting out, I'm definitely more of the therapist practitioner. But that eventually we get to a point where I feel more like a guide or an educator.
But then, Mira, is there any point of time where all three intersect into one? Is there any moment of time where that happened?
Of course, the present moment. That's why the present is a gift. That's why they call it the present, right? So that, you know, that's something that I kind of work with folks on too, is in the West, we refer to it as shadow integration. But in a more layman's term way of explaining that, it's basically learning how to fully accept your whole self, which is the self that exists here in the middle, the present moment, in a way that totally accepts, appreciates, has compassion, and is free of judgment for the self that you have been up until this point, and that is able to mold and intuitively grasp a hold of the future self that it wants to keep moving toward, that it sets as a goal for itself. So we all know how this works. We've got a persona that we've been, and we've got a persona that we're moving toward. And in the middle, we have the present, where we allow those two things to converge and kind of keep us moving in a way that feels good to us.
Yes, thank you, Mira, for explaining that. I'm not sure, Mira, if you've seen the animation Kung Fu Panda, the first one.
I'm sorry?
Kung Fu Panda, the animation, the first one.
Oh,
Kung Fu
yes.
Panda. Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Because when you
No,
mentioned it,
the little gold gems like that, I'm glad that children are being taught little quotes and things of that nature. It's an excellent way to integrate a sense of spirituality at a young age.
yes, because like I think the best way to share the wisdom in an approachable way to children is through stories and cartoons. So in that particular cartoon Kung Fu Panda, there was a character of Master Uwe where he mentioned to Po, the character, he said not Po, I think Master Shifu. She mentioned that yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why we call it present. So I was like, wow, very well said.
Oh, that one really did you get the goosebumps?
Yes,
That's
good one.
so that's something I teach people too. That's something called resonance, which is that when we are perfectly aligned with information that we're perceiving, we get that response. And it's our body's intuitive subconscious programming physically manifesting to tell us this is important. Retain this. Put this in your subconscious. This is what we want to hold on to for these things that we're moving toward. This is helpful to us.
Thank you for explaining that, Mira. Okay, the next question is one of your persona where you become a educator, a professional speaker, and educator of mind, body, spirit, wellness practices. So my next question will be: do you believe um, mind, body, and spirit of a person need to be aligned, and why?
Yes. So I think that for them to be healthy, they need to be in line or at least in harmony with one another. So this is, kind of if you look at the way any working system works, for it to work well, the moving parts have to have a decent amount of rhythm to them. So this is true for the mind, body, spirit complex as well. And in that sense, and this is something that's sort of funny to me when I describe it to businesses, they all kind of get a look on their face like, my business has a spirit. Well, of course it does. Just like human beings are little micro versions of the universe, there are microorganisms that are businesses or organizations as well. They can be faith groups also, but that basically there's a harmony to that system or potentially a disharmony. And that's a lot of what mind, body, spirit, wellness is trying to approach. One of the concepts within that that's super important is a concept called mindful congruence, which is basically aligning your thoughts, words, and actions. So if you're someone who has a lot of mindful incongruence, you're also someone who's a little bit more egoic, in the sense that sometimes they refer to this as ego blindness, which is that there are many things about other people that irritate you that you're unwilling to see as things that you yourself do because of that ego blindness, but it also makes you mindfully incongruent. So by willing to sort of work with the truth of who we are, by accepting sometimes things that irritate us, oftentimes things that irritate us about others, have something to teach us about ourselves, which is one of my favorite Carl Jung quotes, we start to understand that what we're experiencing is a reflection, and that we have a lot of power in our mind, in our relationship with ourselves, and in our perceptions to change how that rapport feels with nature, with other individuals, within a group, for example, and that's an excellent way to reorganize or reharmonize within a group or within an individual amongst the mind, body, spirit complex.
Sorry, Mira, this time you mentioned the term again. What's that? Is it emotional congruence?
So mindful congruence, which is basically, it's aligning your thoughts, your words, your actions. So this is to say you have thoughts about things, about, what's right or wrong for you. Then you either speak to or don't speak to those things. So being incongruent would be saying things that don't align with what you truly believe. And then there's the next step, which would be the actions, which is saying one thing and then doing another. So if there's disharmony across that, there's mindful incongruence, and there's definitely misalignment within the mind, body, spirit complex in that case.
Mindful congruence. It's very interesting you mentioned that, Mira, because when you mentioned that, I remember a quote by the late Mahatma Gandhi, where he mentioned that happiness is happiness is what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony.
Yes.
That was Gandhi mentioned many years ago. So yeah,
I'm not surprised to hear that this wisdom has existed prior, especially from someone of his nature.
yes, exactly. Okay, Mira. The next question is well, just now when I introduced you, like I was reading your introduction, and then the last word has the word alchemist and oracle, and I was quite intrigued when I read the word alchemist and oracle, because I read the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and I love the book because it's about the power of communicating your dream to the universe, and when the universe conspired with you to realize the dream. So I really like the word um,
You
alchemist
see why I put them together, because you can't be one without being the other.
yes, and but then the oracle is something new because like okay, I mean forgive me for being naive because like the the only time I heard oracle before this was from the movie Matrix, the character oracle. so I'm not sure whether is it so I'm quite intrigued the word oracle. So from in the movie Matrix, oracle means like a philosopher or like a guide. So I'm quite intrigued. So what do you do as an alchemist and oracle? What is your role? What's your purpose? How is it like?
So the main thing that I work with is a concept called emotional alchemy, which is an internal energetic alchemy. And basically, this is teaching people how to most efficiently process their emotional energy, and being able basically to observe their emotions instead of being egoically reactive with them. So this is the difference between reactivity and responsiveness. Someone who is reactive is very egoic. They don't understand how to have a rapport with their emotions. So the example I often use is anger. One, because anger is usually the first emotion we're told we're not allowed to have as children. It's very inconvenient for our parents when we're angry as kids. But that because of that, unfortunately, we never have a tendency to build a good rapport with our anger. We just suppress it, right? We never talk to it. So this is about understanding that when you're feeling, one, getting an awareness of what it feels like to feel anger start rising in you so that you can observe it. And two, how to observe it in such a way that you can have an internal dialogue where you can have a more mindful response. So instead of anger just being explosive and destructive, learning how to I don't know if you've ever heard of prescribed burns as used in forests and like crop fields, but basically it's learning how to use your anger more like a prescribed burn method, where it's beneficial and constructive for you instead of destructive and something that you end up feeling. Oftentimes we even get angry about being angry, right? We get angry and then 30 minutes later, we're angry at ourselves for having been angry about something that seems silly after we've sort of calmed down. So that's what emotional alchemy is all about. The oracle side of that is that part of this process is how to get your mind still, to get your mind in the present, so that when you're mindfully responsive about things, you can ask yourself constantly, what is the result that I would like to move toward with this? By learning how to get present and still enough to constantly be able to mindfully respond to information and say, what do I want to do with this? And be intentional about it. That's how you become an oracle in your life, because you're now creating what you want to move toward and thereby sort of manifesting or attracting it to you.
So what I understand here, you mentioned alchemy is like to help someone to respond rather to react, while oracle is like keeping the mind still and processing the thoughts. Can I say in a can I say like that
Yes.
in layman's term? Very
So
interesting.
basically, the oracle takes the energy that the alchemist has transmuted and gets really intentional about applying it to the future.
Okay. I mean, Mira, like, I'm so sorry for including many quotes, but you are so inspirational. Like, whenever I hear this, whenever I hear you say something, like a thought is just pop in my mind. So, so when you mentioned that, I remember a quote by Buddha, which says that revenge is like holding a hot coal in your hand. Like, you want to throw the hot coal to another person, well, the person get hurt, but in the end, you hurt your own hands. So I truly agree when you mentioned that, especially processing anger, when you say like generating how the wise way to use anger, because if you leave yourself to be engulfed in anger, then it will destroy yourself, because like anger is like that. Anger can we say anger is like a fire, because like fire when they were small, when small is a friend, but when it's big is a foe, is an enemy. So I truly agree with you. And especially when you mentioned the word react versus respond, like going back to the one I mentioned earlier about the power, the faculty of intellect in human being. So I can relate to my previous experience. So I just want to share a little story, if you don't mind, of my
Yes, please.
two self. This is between the old Yuva and the new Yuva. So the old Yuva, many years ago, old Yuva, let's say if someone may come to me and say, Yuva, you are dumb. So I will just react. I say, so are you. So that is react, because I say it under anger. But now, if someone's come to me and say, you are dumb, I'll take a minute. I will think, is it true? Is it true I'm dumb? I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm a master's graduate, I'm a doctoral candidate, I'm a podcaster, I'm a life coach. So that doesn't look like a dumb person. So when that thought comes, when the thought process comes to my mind, so I leave it a gap, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes to think back what the person saying is true or not. Then I will just say to him and say thank you. So instead of
Yeah.
saying so are you, I say thank you. So so in that process, I do not get agitated. In in the end, I make the person who mentioned to me, you are dumb, that person becomes double agitated. So 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 I truly agree with what you say, react versus response. So you do not give the power to others to agitate yourself. So I truly
Yeah.
agree with that. So thank you for
One
sharing that,
of
Mira.
one of my favorites is thank you for the information. Because at the end of the day, that is truly the most neutral way to define it. It's the
Yeah.
truth of what it is.
Mhm.
And so often, people are just projecting their internal reality. So you're right. It's exactly that choice point for us to say, thank you for the information. Now
Mhm.
I am going to mindfully think about whether this information is true based on my basis of awareness, my perception. But that one of the first things that people need to work on is that basis of perception, right?
Yes.
Because if your internal one isn't good, secure, or confident, when someone says that to you, you don't even have that introspective moment. You just accept it.
Absolutely.
Or you try to fix something about yourself so that this person likes you, instead of realizing maybe this person just isn't the right environment for me to experience. But I appreciate the information that they just gave me about that.
And also it's kind of related to circle of control, right? Because like there are two phases of control, which is within your control and beyond your control, which I apply a lot in my coaching as well. So let's say if some things are within your control, are like what? Example, feel your feelings, your thoughts, as you mentioned, your base of perceptions, your actions, your speech. So all of these are within our control, because why? We we dictate what we think, we dictate what we speak, we dictate what we feel. But how about the things that are beyond our control? What other people think about us? So we can't dictate how others think about us, because others may, because for example, when I talk to someone, maybe on the outside, the person might be smiling, but what the person may feel inside about us, we never know, because we are not mind readers. We are not mind readers. So we do not know how the person actually feel about me. Maybe the person is having some bad thought. Maybe the person having some negative thought. We'll never know. So those things are we can't dictate that, and therefore it's beyond our control.
Yes. So I teach, this is part of what teaching intuition is helpful with, which is that actually we are a little bit intuitive, a little psychic, in that we sometimes have a sense, right, of a person being dishonest with us or, you know, putting an act on. So that getting to a place where when you experience that intuitive moment, you actually give credence to it instead of forcing yourself to continue to interact with that person where, you know, it feels incongruent, unaligned every time. But the other thing is getting to a place of understanding how to make yourself and your mind your locus of control in every situation. And one of the simplest ways that I can teach about that and spirituality and ritual all at once is literally just getting people to remember how much control you have over yourself with breath. So a lot of times when we're feeling like, let's say, for example, someone says that to you, right? You're dumb and you get reactive and all of a sudden your breathing shallows, you aren't breathing as deeply anymore. Your mind really starts, you know, the more the mind kind of stirs and gets turning about things, the more shallow we seem to breathe. And that when we're having that sensation, remembering to just take 1 minute of your day to deep breathe in and out and experience the difference that you feel in your body and your emotions and your state of being from just 1 minute of breathing. And all of a sudden people remember, wow, I have a lot of control over things in my life because I have control over myself and my body. So I think it's super important to get people to remember that even when something is out of your control, that you have the power to control your internal reality as a response to it, or to grow from it, or to learn to change the environment from it.
Wow, I mean, like what you mentioned about breath is very true, Mira, because I just noticed myself when I get angry, I will like I was like panting short, quick breath, and the breath is not complete. So, and yeah, I could truly relate to that. And then compare it when I was feeling calm. I was sitting like, for example, I'm talking to you, I'm feeling calm. So my breath is normal, like breathe in and breathe out is controlled. So what you're saying is, I can truly relate to it. Yes.
So one of the other really cool methods for dealing with emotions, if you're someone that's starting out, and if you're someone that's just more comfortable in a rational, highly analytical mindset, is I give a lot of my clients this thing called the Feely wheel. And it's literally just a wheel with the many different words that we use to describe emotion. And I tell my clients to like save it on their phone, put it in their wallet, whatever, so that when they're having an angry response, they can pull it out and pinpoint more specific types of emotions that fall under the umbrella of anger or other emotions on the wheel that they're experiencing, so that they can individually kind of hone in on those emotions and think about how they want to solve that emotion. So this is that integration of the irrational, reactive, sort of emotive mind with that conscious, rational, analytical mind, and letting them work together in a way that helps you get the most effective and healthy response for you, even when you deal with a difficult emotion. Or when you're confronted with something that feels emotionally overwhelming is the other thing. You know, when we're feeling angry and sad, but kind of happy. And, you know, we've all had that where we know we're experiencing a lot of things at once. If you can pull out the Feely wheel and break down the emotions, it makes it feel like something you have control over, like something you can solve for yourself.
Yes, Mira. I mean, like when you mentioned it, I remember one more thing that sometimes like we felt like sad, but we may feel upset. So those two may sound similar, but they are different. So words sometimes don't do justice to what we truly feel. It can't truly explain what we truly feel within ourselves. So sometimes personally I do struggle with that because, for example, I may feel tired, but I just feel like lack of sleep or exhausted. So what can I do? What can I do to generate the right words to describe how I feel.
To describe when you can't sleep.
Okay, let's give an example. Let's say I feel upset, but I express it as feel sad. It is these two may sound similar, but actually they're different. So how do you
Yes.
distinguish? Yeah.
So there's a little bit of understanding that sadness is sort of the umbrella term, and then there are lots of other terms that come off of that. So you could feel somewhere between sad and angry would be the word offended, right? Somewhere between sad and overwhelmed or frustrated would be, anxious, basically.
Yeah.
So there are even convergences in the wheel that show you where you're crossing over some of the bigger emotions. But by understanding that, then all of a sudden you understand too, okay, so I have some anger to deal with, but I also feel, sad that someone has this thought. And by using the wheel, it helps you break it down, deconstruct it even more so that it's easy for you to think about and connect with all of the parts of that emotional experience you're having.
Wow. Wow. That's just mind-boggling, something new to me. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, one of the things that I try to be really different about in my therapy is that I'm very solution centric. So every time I do sessions, I do notes, but it's not a rehash of all the stuff that went wrong from your week. It's the tools and sort of mindset changes and perception changes or affirmations we've talked about in session that will help you create a new, more sustainable mindset going forward as solutions to whatever we talked about from your week or your 2 weeks or your month away in between sessions.
Interesting. Mira, interesting. Mira, before our interview, I managed to follow one of your interview with your other interview with your other friends on Instagram, and only then I got to know that you are Irish. Yeah.
Yes,
So
partially. I'm a lot of things.
okay. So because just 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, it was Saint Patrick's Day, right? So over here in Asia, it's something quite unknown because in especially in Malaysia, we have a very small number of Irish here because most of them are expatriates, are expats. So we do not quite know much about Irish culture here, but we do have pubs and bistros who celebrate Saint Patrick's Day by giving discounts on draft beer and so on. Okay, joke
It's a
aside.
great marketing ploy. I'll give it that.
Okay, I'm just asking a question, being a naive here. So what is the so why does Saint Patrick's Day being celebrated? Just want to ask, being curious here.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Okay, I'm just being curious. Why is Saint Patrick's Day being celebrated? Is there any story or history behind it?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of history behind it. So one thing that's actually important for a lot of people to know right off the bat is that St. Patrick was not even Irish. He was Italian.
Really?
Yes.
Oh
So
my.
he was actually a pastor that was sent by the Christian Orthodoxy with the intent of basically Christian Reformation in Ireland. And so not to get too political about that, but it is, basically the truth of what the history is. Now, that being said, it's very interesting to me. Part of the reason I did that interview with my friend who's Fijian is that I found a crossover between the deities or pantheon of the Tuatha De Danann, who were sort of the mythological beings of the Irish pre-Christendom and Catholicism, and with the Hindu and Sanskrit deities. And that is a goddess named Danu, who in Sanskrit and in basically the Tuatha De Danann mythology is the same goddess. She oversees the same things in nature. And so I found that amazing and super fascinating that there is that beautiful cross-cultural convergence of a deity, even between the Sanskrit or the Hindu and the Irish. I mean, how far apart are those nations? It's pretty amazing.
Wow. I mean, yeah, thank you for explaining that. So now I've learned a new thing about St. Patrick's Day. So thank you for sharing that. Okay,
yes, it's mostly a holiday to sell beer and celebrate getting rid of what they refer to as pagan belief systems.
Okay. All right. Very true.
But the Hindus were also referred to as pagan by the Christendom. So it's not necessarily the truth of what the religion is what I would say to that.
Well, Mira, for your information, I'm a practicing Hindu. I'm Hindu, so I can relate to that.
Yes, there have been many cultures that have experienced the language to make them seem less than they are. I think, unfortunately, Hindu culture, definitely one of them. Some of the pre-Christendom Irish, the Native Americans, the indigenous people of the Americas and their spiritualities, all very similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Much more connected to nature and the natural cycles of the earth and that daily spiritual existence, basically, that it's everything. It's not just you in a building at the end of the week.
Okay, Mira. Okay. Now going back to to what you do. I believe, Mira, in anything that we do, there will be believers and there will be naysayers and there will be critics. So I don't ask you, is I mean, so far throughout your career, through your profession, is there have you like recognized any critics of your work, any naysayers? And if you don't mind, can you please narrate one such experience and how do you handle it?
So I wouldn't say I've come across any naysayers. I actually very intentionally place myself around others that I know are also highly in tune individuals that are willing to philosophically disagree with me, but that I don't see them as opposition or as anyone that's, I don't see them as someone who's speaking, like down their nose to me at this point. I've been very lucky to cultivate a group of friends that are willing to have conversations where we don't necessarily totally agree on everything, but we're all in the mindset of understanding that that's what helps us grow. And that it's also what helps us see the full spectrum of what the human mind is sort of capable of in its viewpoints. So that I would say, if you're the kind of person who finds yourself in situations that you feel like you have a lot of naysayers, it actually is a good place to have some internal perspective on your own perception of self, because this really is a reflection. And so if you're coming up against a lot of people that basically bash you or tell you you're not good at what you do or don't believe in you, you got to start thinking about what's happening up here that's causing that reflection for you and others. The second you start changing the way you treat yourself in here, the naysayers disappear. They just become people that you can have a dialogue with. You no longer take that information as something that's intended to harm you.
Yep. When you mentioned that, I remember another thing. It's like you're wearing glasses, okay? Glasses. Okay? So let's say if you're wearing glasses and your lens is clear, everything you see is clear. If your lens is black, everything you see is black. If your lens is red, everything you see is red. So similarly, so how do you feel? So you mentioned this over and over again throughout the interview, like what we experiencing externally is a projection of our inner self. So let's say if your inner self is like steady, solid, and we are truly comfortable and confident with who we are internally, and so therefore, like any naysayers, critics will just vanish. I mean, if they are, we will not realize it, because why? We are truly comfortable and confident with who we are inside.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said.
Precisely.
Very well said.
So what's interesting is that like attracts like, but that it also attracts its opposite. So you will also run into people who provide a larger lens of spectrum for you, is the kind way I would say it, but that there's someone that's going to feel like what I would refer to as an abrasive force in your life. Now, most people are going to hear that and go, well, I don't want any abrasive forces in my life. And the thing that I always metaphor with that is, you know, let's say you're the gem or the diamond, right? And you've been picked raw from nature. Here's this stone, this diamond. Well, you're going to have to grind up against intentionally an abrasive force to shape yourself, to mold yourself into the most beautiful format, into the design, into the persona that you really want to be in this lifetime. So I welcome the abrasive forces. You know, you don't want to have them just sitting on you, grinding you to dust, but getting really intentional about knowing how to move against them and appreciating them as something that's for you instead of to harm you is one of the big cornerstones of kind of what I teach people in letting go of feeling so affected or overpowered by even when you run into that opposing force.
Very, very interesting there. When you mentioned it, I remember Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, where it mentioned that action is worship. So action is worship is like just by, so first of all, we can't deny action is something, is a must in life. Every living being act. Only the dead people do not act. So and consequently, when you do action, there will be change. So when you act, you change. So therefore, like so going back to example of the raw gem and diamond being bring out from the soil, and then you have to do some polishing and all that. Similarly, human being when they're born, they are born in raw being, and then like they have to go through some polishing, maybe to parenting, maybe through mingling with the community, mingling the world, and then eventually they have to go through another polishing where they have to do self-study. In the term in there's a Sanskrit term called swadhyaya. That means a self-study. So you need to self-study deep down, go deep down and find out your true vastness, your true inherent nature. And then you have to live according to your true inherent nature. And same time, you need to fulfill the two karmas. Even the word karma itself is the most misunderstood word, because karma, okay, for example, you say something bad happened to you, you say, oh, it's my karma. No, that's not karma.
No, it's just action.
Yeah, exactly. Karma, in fact, karma is a Sanskrit word for action. That's karma. Karma means action. So when you say my life is my karma, means my life is my responsibility. So talking about karma, there are two types of karmas that each bird will have to face. One which there's one which is they are born with it, and one they have to live through it. So one which are born with it is called I've forgotten the karma, and one more is nine karma. So the one karma where you're born with it, and then there's another one is your daily duties where you have to fulfill both duties equally, and then to truly to fully realize yourself. So I truly agree when you mention that, when mention the example of a diamond, the raw being extracted in the raw form, needs some polishing, needs some extra work, then it becomes a proper diamond. So I truly resonate with that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much. I feel highly educated now. I've been learning more about the Hindu religious history and where it ties into other religions and faiths, and just sort of how it's been shaped as its own gem over the years. And also, you know, it's interesting that in the West, we took the word karma and made it really duality driven. We have a tendency to do that, right? We have a tendency to assign something automatically as good or bad instead of ever allowing space for like neutral awareness. Action being a perfect example of that. One of the beautiful things about karma that I've sort of integrated into my understanding of like psychology and consciousness is that karma really is this thing that is the carrier of the intentions we
Yeah.
create with our
Mhm.
consciousness, that
Yeah.
it's just energetic flow. I have a quote where I said the only currency the universe cares about is karma. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that it's the thing, you know, I always remind people too, that even let's say you say something to someone and you intended to be kind,
Mhm.
but their perception takes that information and takes an offense from it.
Yeah.
That a lot of people confuse that with, that's going to give me bad karma. No, it's not. If your consciousness imbued your words, your actions with constructive, loving intention, that's what really matters. Whether or not someone receives it that way is their karma.
Correct.
To learn how to transmute, how to alchemize.
Yes. And I just remember the term. Well, the karma that you're born with it is nitya karma. The karma you're born with it. And in your daily routine duty is called naimittika karma. So in order for someone to fully realize themselves, they have to fulfill these two karmas equally and to their best. So yeah, thank you
Sounds like
for
harmony.
harmony. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, Mira, the next question is so one of your persona is you are a healer. So I'm just quite intrigued. How does a person become a healer? What is the requirement and preparation needed to become one?
The preparation required is compassion and understanding that it can be very simple to heal another human being, that it's not something so complicated, that even, you know, as we're talking about the concept of karma and the importance of words and intentions, that seeing someone in the store that looks forlorn or upset and being intentional about smiling at them and saying, hi, hope you're having a wonderful day, is, you know, a simple format by which we can change not just our day. That's actually a good way to improve neuroplasticity too, by the way, to be intentional about saying hi to others if you're normally uncomfortable about that. But that it's also this excellent way for us to reconnect with what we're trying to do for the world, right? The change we're trying to be and appreciate in ourselves and in others.
Suddenly, I remember this one quote, which says we should always do good even when we don't feel like doing it. Right. So they are so I mean like there are some days that when we feel up, there's the up days, there are down days. We have our own day, we have our down days. So even when we're feeling down, we should not stop doing good. Right.
Yes. So this is the opportunity to observe your emotional state instead of feeling mastered by it. One of the things I teach people as a kind of a mindfulness tool that's similar to the Feely wheel is this thing called the subjective units of experience, or SUE scale. And what this scale is a scale from -10, which would be like the lowest of the low feeling, emotional state of being, to a +10, highest of highs, and neutral being 0, which is not a bad place to be. The observer lives at 0, right? But that by using this scale, we can basically assign numbers to emotional experiences so that we can understand them better rationally and also accept how much of an impact something had or someone had on our number. Now, most people are already thinking about the people that make their scale go down, go negative. But the other thing that the scale is good for is learning about the things that make our scale go up or more positive. So that when you're having one of those days where you observe that you're upset, that your scale is below 0, you've also got this tool that's allowed you to understand the activities and experiences in your daily life that make your scale go up, that you can counteract that information with. So if you know that having waffles makes you 5 points happier than you were before you had waffles, and you're having a -1 kind of morning, please have the waffles. And that's a silly one to give, but it's about finding those simple daily things For me, there's like a very special, more expensive incense that I have that I only use when I really want to be present and enjoy it. And that's something that makes my scale go up 3 or 4 points. Now, when I wake up in the morning and there's no creamer in the fridge because I forgot to buy it, I observe that my scale goes down 3 or 4 points. But here I have this wonderful thing that I've assigned another value to that I can pull out at any given moment and readjust my emotional state with.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mira. Okay, my next question will be because in the introduction again, introduction again, where I explained about um, your intro, business and organizational wellness consulting advisor. So, but mainly you're dealing with spirituality, right? So how do you marry together business and spirituality? Because these two are quite in contrast with each other. So how do you marry both them together?
So the first thing I would do is work on that belief system, because you're right. Most people think that that's true, but it's not, right? We give businesses, organizations, identities. We give them names. We give them personas. We give them a purpose. We give them egos, basically, something that we're moving toward. But that one of the main things that has to happen within that is that all of the moving parts of that system or that organization or business or group need to feel spiritually well also, right? If you have an illness in your body, it's not the whole body usually. It's something that is in a specific location, or it's, maybe it attacks a specific portion. And so that's where you have to look at business more as a spiritual energy, just as I, as a spiritual healer, look at, the mind-body connection and meridians when I work with something like EFT or tapping therapy to help fix a physical ailment that's connected to emotions. Businesses experience those as well, but instead of a physical illness, there's usually a financial one or a morale one, right? Like we all know when we've worked at a business where there's poor morale, that business is poor in spirit, right? If you have a business who has the majority of the employees who don't even know what the purpose or mission of the business is, they can't feel connected to it. They can't feel a part of something larger. That's a spiritually ill business, right? So it's getting people to understand, one, that we already do kind of refer to and often identify and give names to these organizations, right? That's why we literally come up with a color scheme and a logo. Ironically, logo comes from the word logos, which means God. So how funny that we use that to create these identities for these organizations, but that they have to be willing to, kind of also face the reality of what they've done if their purpose has become, let's say, purely revenue driven and people don't connect to that. Purpose is something I work with a model called Ikigai, which is made up of 4 components to purpose, which is what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can be paid for. Now, these are excellent to utilize in a personal individual model, but they're also highly important in a business or organizational model. Because if your purpose or mission doesn't meet all 4 of those petals of that Ikigai, there's mental unwellness, there's incongruence, something's missing, right? Without the love of doing, without people doing what they love, there's complacency, there's disconnection, for example. So I'm trying to basically move back into a space that I came from. I used to work for the government, and I got to tell you, unfortunately, that's a spiritually unwell place in the United States that I would like to, a lot of the corporate, the modern corporate world is pretty spiritually unwell also, that I want to move back into those spaces to create space for spirituality and ritual in a way that works well for businesses. So same thing with ritual, a simple ritual to get people on the same wavelength before a meeting. Everyone do deep breath work for 1 minute together before the meeting starts, right? That's a simple format and ritual to place spiritual expression within business so that people can be more aligned with each other and what the meeting's about, for example.
Well, when you mention the word ikigai, is quite similar to the concept of dharma, because concept of dharma in Hindu, where we combine the four aspects: what we do, what the uh, what do we get from it, and what do the community what they contribute community, and what do we feel about it. So all of it combined into intersect. It's like a Venn circle. So if
Yes.
you intersect all four into one middle sector, is called purpose or dharma. And I truly agree with that. So ikigai and dharma have a similarity there, which goes back
Ikigai literally means purpose in
purpose. Yes,
Japanese.
yes,
So and dharma means purpose in
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit.
Yes. Um,
Amazing. Thank you
yep.
for that cross-cultural connection.
Yeah, which you mentioned earlier, that they said there seems to be like communication between different cross culture here, and also goes back to the Gandhi's quote just now. Happiness is when what you say, what you think, and what you do are in harmony. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mira. I mean, yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Um,
This has been an amazingly wonderful conversation,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I do have few more questions. Am I taking too much of a time, or can I continue?
No,
Or
no, not at
yeah.
all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I do have just not much, just maybe 3 or 4 questions. Okay, before we end the one. Okay, so next one is about hot therapy. Okay, therapy. Okay, so my question is, how does a holistic therapy differ from conventional therapies? How do they differ, or are they the same?
So the main difference between holistic therapy and what I would refer to as more clinical psychology is that holistic therapy makes room for irrationality and spiritual awareness and sensations. Whereas clinical therapy is really about sort of the scientific endeavor of understanding how the psyche and emotions have a physical effect on the biological body. All right, that's great for us to understand, but that's not what most people want to understand about themselves or what they go to therapy for, right? If that's what they wanted to learn, they would go to college for psychology. So the beauty of holistic therapy is that it makes it tangible. It makes it touchable. It makes it understandable to the average person who has ordinary needs in their daily life. And it helps them move to a space where instead of feeling like a victim to reality, for example, which is sort of this state of consciousness where we think life is happening to us, that holistic therapy helps you get to a place where you're mentally and spiritually balanced and can appreciate that life is happening for us and through us. That's how you perceive your daily life and experience. And that holistic therapy also really comes from a place of getting people to understand things like resonance or vibes, right? Getting in tune with your senses instead of just trying to analyze them. That there really isn't a handbook for how the heart works, right? That, yeah, biologically speaking, we know that it has 4 chambers and that it pumps blood and that it's kind of our motor, but that from an emotional, a spiritual, and intuitive sense, that the heart's full of wisdom that cannot honestly be put into a single book. Many have tried, but it keeps evolving with us. So that's really the difference with holistic therapy too, is we're not just trying to analyze and diagnose you. I don't diagnose people. I give people solutions for what I would refer to as neurodiversity is another example. So there are many people who come to me who say, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. For me, that's someone that I work with, and I help them understand that the way they perceive time is mostly nonlinear, that they see and experience time and therefore share about their experiences and the tasks they want to do through time in a different way. And that's going to require a different set of tools, a different way of organizing, and a different way of introspecting with yourself than the ordinary person who doesn't think in that way, that's a more linear analytical thinker. So that's kind of a little bit of an extreme example, but it's just to say that holistic therapy is far more concerned with self-acceptance and finding the tools that work for you as you are naturally, than it is in diagnosing you as something non-ordinary or non-functional because of being unique or different or neurodivergent.
So I can say in a nutshell, how do we distinguish between holistic therapy and, as you mentioned, clinical therapy? Like clinical therapy is more like lab-like situation. It's either black and white. It's everything is like measured in units. It's very measurable. It's very standardized. But holistic therapy is more like embracing the human value of human, like the unique diversity of human feelings. Can we say
Yes.
that in the yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
precisely. I'm not concerned with diagnosing you and telling you a problem. I'm concerned with you sharing what you perceive as problems with me so that we can work together to find solutions, tools, and mindset changes, perception changes that make that feel like not a problem for you anymore.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Okay. Now next question is like the type of client. Okay, so what type of people, what kind of people that can benefit from your service?
So I would say anyone that's interested. The main thing is that you do have to have an interest in doing the work, right? A lot of people make the mistake of sort of going into therapy with two different mindsets that don't work well. One, that the therapist is going to fix everything for you, or two, without any idea about what they're hoping to achieve through therapy. So I do a first free initial contact consultant session with folks. And one of the first questions I ask them is, have you done therapy before? Okay. What did you like and not like about it? What are your hopes for yourself with therapy? So this is a huge difference between clinical and holistic therapy too, is that I'm building an intuitive rapport with each person so that I can help them learn how to listen to themselves more. So I have to learn, even as the practitioner, to ask the right questions to get you excited about and interested in doing the work, basically.
So it's a two-way communication. It's like not just you are learning, not just you are doing something, but you're learning more about yourself and also learning more about the client, and you're also learning how to ask better questions to your client. Wow.
Yes, it's a beautiful process for me too. I get awesome reflections from my clients all the time now. I'm very happy to say, but that it really is about me learning how to ask the right questions so that I can teach you how to ask the right questions too. That my goal is not to feel like people need to keep seeing me forever. I'm not doing something right if you feel like you have to keep seeing me all the time, right? So this is sort of the plus and minus of what I do from a business perspective, is that being good at what you do gets people out of your door faster, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I have a knowing that part of the ikigai of the Dharma for me is that the world really needs a lot more people like us right now to help folks more with self-acceptance. So
No, yeah, I mean, Mira, if you're really good in what you're doing, and the people benefit from it, you will still get business, because why people that people who get treated or who benefit from you will spread the word. Okay, they'll say, okay, Mira, okay, this person here is a wonderful therapist, wonderful healer. So all of you to check out. So one person will spread to four becomes 16, 16 becomes 64. So just by the word of mouth, it will spread. And yeah,
yes.
so definitely a
And
good thing.
if I could give any professional advice to other coaches, clinicians, practitioners, it would be that the focus of your marketing campaign should almost be entirely rooted in your word of mouth. You get much higher quality clients as well for your practice, for your business, when it's word of mouth rapport, instead of spending lots of money on fancy print advertisements, for example.
You know what, Mira? I will take note on that, because I'm also right now looking for clients. So I will take note on that. Word of mouth. Word of mouth is
Word
the
of mouth
best.
is excellent.
Excellent.
When I first started out, I actually did about 6 months where I just did what I referred to as practice sessions so that I could build a few, I could work with a few people myself and get comfortable with it, but also so that I could get some decent reviews from people and get real feedback. And, that was, huge for me as far as word of mouth as well. It's also part of why I do my initial consult for free also, because even if you can't afford to see me long term, but that one session makes a big difference for you, and you tell a buddy at work, or you tell your friends that you see over the weekend and they call me, it's hugely beneficial to the business side of things to trust that word of mouth process.
Yeah. And also, like, Mira, word of mouth is more like humane way to connect to others. It's more personal. Whereas if you create content, like maybe you create prints, for example, this it's create like a little gap, a little disarray between you and your lead clients. So
Yes.
yeah, yes, absolutely.
People like feeling emotionally connected to a therapist or a coach before they ever contact them.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Okay, so my next question will be a little, my next question will be a little more sensitive, because like the my coaching niche is on anti-discrimination, because like I chose that because being a minority in my country, I've been exposed, I've been mistreated, I've been misjudged, I've been giving bad treatment daily, almost on daily basis. So that's why the choice come naturally to me. So I believe bad treatment existed everywhere, even in US as well, right? So I mean, I can say, for example, for people of color, people of from the LGBTQ, where they have been treated badly for merely practicing being merely for being truly who they are, and they're being treated badly for that. So I'm just wondering, can victim of discrimination or bad treatment or bad being treated badly, can they benefit from your service?
So the thing I would say about that is that one, it's personal to the individual as far as how they want to approach that in therapy. So in my initial client questions, I actually asked people, one, if their comfort level speaking to me about discriminations in their life, if and when they experience them. Because I know what I look like, and so I don't assume to be at a place that someone would necessarily be comfortable with me. So I ask the question if they are, and if they are, what are basically what are the systems that are in place, the environments that are in place that are causing you to experience those discriminations, and also taking the next question of what can I as your practitioner support you toward? What would you like as a result from this to help the client take back a sense of locus of control, a sense of power over the situation? Because of course they are a victim to discrimination, but with great responsibility comes great power. Once you accept asking yourself that question, what do I want to do about this? Right? It takes that anger, that hurt, that pain, that emotional energy that's occurred, and alchemized it into something that you can now do something about it with, that you can have a sense of power or control over. Now, that may be, finding the right channels of support so that you can report these sort of actions. It may just be that you want a safe space in therapy to speak about them and just express yourself, right? That you don't even necessarily want solutions, but that's something that the practitioner should be mindful with the individual that's in front of them to gauge how comfortable they are with it. But I think another thing that's important to sort of ask these clients also is to think about some of the existing subconscious belief systems that they've accepted to be truths about what their race or their gender or their faith or their sexuality mean to them. These are all things that we can be discriminated for, right? And so if we're going through life with a subconscious belief that because of my race, I'm going to have many problems in my life, and you are facing many problems in your life, that one, notice the reflection of the belief you've accepted, right? That's a belief we can now say we want to deconstruct away from. We don't want to believe that the world is going to be difficult for you to deal with just because of who you are. Now, it's not to say that won't ever happen, but by deconstructing that belief system, you're going to start building environments that don't reflect that as much. Now, the next thing becomes when you are in those abrasive environments that are offering you what is discrimination, you have a choice point to make. You're either the person who's there to change that system and your goal is to build the mental resiliency to be able to do that, or your choice point is to say, I don't deserve this behavior. I deserve a better environment. My desired result is to find that better environment. And that these are really important sort of ideas or practices that any therapist can sort of approach the individual client with. Now, obviously, for organizational wellness, this is very, very different because there are, laws and things that have to do with business entities as individuals in that sense. But that for the individual who experiences discrimination, that thinking about what you want to do about it is going to help you move toward feeling like you have control over it again.
Thank you for sharing that, Mira. I mean, those are very powerful things you say just now. So to take the crux of what you mentioned just now, so the person has a choice whether to become the difference or to create a better environment for that person to live in. I'm talking in regards to victim of discrimination, which I can truly resonate because just before interview I followed a Vedanta class an hour prior to an interview, and in that our teacher mentioned us, in order to fully realize our true potential, there are 4 steps we need to do, which is number 1, we need to identify the flaw. You need to identify that there is something wrong with this. You need to identify that. Number 2, once we identify, we need to admit the flaw. And then once we admit the flaw, we have to accept the flaw. So we identify, we admit, we accept the flaw. And lastly, once we completed this 3, we work on it. So it's identify, admit, accept the flaw, work on the flaw. So it's like, so when you mention that, it's quite fresh because I just learned the class just before our interview. So I just want to say it, and it's truly,
Synchronicity is a beautiful thing.
yeah. Yeah, and it truly resonates with what you mentioned earlier, just now. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And okay, Mira, the last question will be, how can the audience connect to you?
So the easiest way is through my website, which is moonandrune.com. You can also follow me on social media through Instagram. I have a personal page, which is Mira Taylor Wellness. And then I also have my business page, which is at Moon and Rune Wellness. I usually cross share most things across both of them. Some things that are more personal, like art, or some of the work that I do just as an individual, I share on my personal account. But on the Moon and Rune Wellness account, I really make a point about sharing about a lot of healing modalities and simple changes that people can make in their daily life or the way they think about things. And so I encourage everyone to just give it a follow for some free tools and tricks for yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mira. So audience, if you have missed out what Mira said just now, I will include all of that in the description of the interview video on YouTube and also in the podcast description. Okay, Mira, before we sign off, can we do a little quick fire question? Just 3 questions, just quick fire questions. So it's just a little fun session. So first question is, what is the latest book? Okay, what is the latest book you've read?
Oh man. So I'm also a nonlinear reader is what I would say to that. But that one of the main ones actually that I'm reading right now is a little bit jargon heavy, but it's right in front of me, so I'll pull it out. And it's called How the Human Mind Can Occur in the Physical Universe. Mm-hmm. This is one that I actually got at a thrift store. that
Okay.
or a used bookstore that was an old Oxford College
Wow.
psychology book. So
Hmm.
it's been a really fascinating endeavor. But this talks a lot about the Freudian or clinical concept of psychology, which is basically the architecture of the human mind and how
Hmm.
it like neurologically how things fire synapses happen in here and how they correlate to thoughts and then the body. So a little jargon heavy. The
Hmm.
other one that I'm reading, which you will probably appreciate. Now, I will say I love this book because it actually is very good about teaching about the proper Sanskrit pronunciation and
Mm-hmm.
origins of the chakras.
Chakras, yeah.
This is called Your Seven Energy Centers, a holistic approach to physical, emotional, and spiritual vitality.
Yeah.
And like I said, I give it a lot of credence because it did a very good job of not being culturally appropriating in any way.
So when you mention seven energy centers, it also means seven chakras, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
So the other thing that book does a really beautiful job of is actually tying it into like traditional Chinese medicine and how they refer to it as meridians or qi. That there are many formats of this sort of sense of how the mind body system works with the core meaning of what the words mean, kind of like ikigai and dharma, both meaning purpose, that it
Yeah.
does a good job of showing how these traditions coincide with each other in a really nice way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Next question will be, okay, what will be a piece of advice that you will give to the younger Mira?
Oh man, what would be the piece of advice I would give to her? The piece of advice that I would give to her is the same that I would give to everyone, which is please love yourself. I did not love myself. I had a very dingy, unkind lens that I looked through for a very long time in my life, but that I also have appreciation for her. I would thank her for everything she did to help me be me today. I think people forget to appreciate how important that past self experience was into shaping us who we are. We tend to denigrate it a lot, and that seeing how beautiful that process has been is a super important thing for everyone to experience for themselves, me included. I still do it all the time when I experience old self. I have to stop oh, why did I do that? Which still happens, of course, but then I remind myself, okay, why did I do that? Where did it get me? How did it, shape me into who I am today?
Love yourself. I think that's the thing which I think all of us should remind ourselves, love ourselves, right? Okay, last
It's difficult.
it's difficult. Yes. Okay, Mina, last question. Okay, you have a choice either to write a book or a movie about yourself. What will be the title of it?
Oh man. Uh Self unabridged.
Self unabridged. So will it be a movie or a book?
I would want it to be a book. I think that there's a lot of whimsy to books. One of the things I really work with people on too is being more active with their imagination. And books are an amazing way to activate the visual centers within your mind, your imagination, and that creative process that occurs in here that, I love movies. I think they're beautiful
Mhm.
ways to tell stories, right? But that when you watch a movie, all of the moving parts, all of the vision of what it is presented to you. Whereas when you read a book, you get to really make up your own beautiful imaginative world in your mind. There's a word for that actually. It's called a paracosm.
Very cross. Okay, interesting. So, Mira, we have come to the end of our podcast interview. And Mira, thank you for being a wonderful, brilliant guest. I mean,
Oh, thank you. Honestly, thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I mean, like your points that you shared has been truly interesting, wonderful. I mean, and some of it like truly like I've learned many new things from you, and I believe the audience will also learn many valuable things from you as well. And Mira, any last parting words from you?
Just thank you. You've taught me a lot this evening as well. And I'm very appreciative for you having me on and for sharing me with your audience. And I look forward to us continuing a rapport. Honestly, these were some of the best interview questions I've ever been asked.
Thank you so much.
They challenged me in a really wonderful way.
Thank you so much, because I can say these questions are honestly from just being honest from my heart, because I'm just being honestly curious. I mean, like, these questions are not like to know to test you or to judge you or what. I'm just being curious about what you
I
do.
love
So
that.
yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, so Mira, thank you so much, and and audience, thank you for listening to the end of the podcast, and we will meet you in the next podcast interview. So thank you all. Thank you, Mira. Bye bye.